Welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you, Camille, for your question about how amateur couples prepare for competition. So obviously that prep starts long before you walk on that floor. And today I'm going to share what we usually do on the day of competition. And so not only, Camille, am I going to share an example of how a hypothetical amateur couple would prepare, I am going to share my own story because newsflash, everyone, every single pro started as an amateur. And if you're taking from a higher level pro, guarantee they started as an amateur competitor. So every couple's a little different. I'm going to share kind of my routine, and if that's helpful for you, awesome. There's not a right or wrong way to do it. I would suggest this way because it worked well for me. Okay, so I'm assuming you've done all the prep work for the months leading up as well as the week leading up to the comp. I will post that kind of what I would do the week before a comp in another video. I'll share that link below in the description. But for me, I'm assuming that you've done everything and now you've flown in and it's the day before probably the competition. So you arrive at the hotel. You check into your room. Next stop is checking in at the comp desk outside of the doors that enter the main ballroom. Get my competitor number, etc. Next step, I double check the schedule. Sometimes they make last minute changes. I had my worst comp fiasco ever. I won't say the name of a competition. It was a major competition where they even changed the day we competed. And they did this, heavens, it was a day or 2 days before the comp. So double check that schedule so you don't miss your heats, okay? Next step, I poke my head in the ballroom, okay? So I scope out the floor size. And actually, this is even more important if you compete pro-am. When you're competing amateur, there are minimum floor size regulations, usually 45 by 60 feet. In pro-am, we don't have such restrictions on those couples. So definitely poke your head in because some big comps that have a ton of competitors like Ohio might subdivide that floor in half, which is obviously a big old fiasco for your routines, but I at least want to see what am I dealing with. Okay, after I've done that, I go upstairs and I unpack and I set up my room. So I take out all of my supplies. For me as lady, that means putting a bunch of stuff laid out on that restroom counter for the next day to get ready. Both of us lay our costumes out. I recommend laying them out flat and not hanging them. Almost all costumes, including tail suits these days, have a Lycra element. And so that Lycra can stretch out and permanently, actually, depending, gradually, depending on the heat of the room that you store it in. So just to be safe, I like to lay mine out. If you have a spare bed in there, lay it out on the bed. If you have no bed, heck, lay it out on the couch. The floor really doesn't matter. And if you have to last minute steam it out any wrinkles, you can do that before the actual day of the comp, okay? Looks like amateur hour if you go out there with a wrinkly costume. Ladies, make sure, especially for you, not to hang those gowns because I had a last minute costume snafu where my gown stretched out substantially hanging on a hanger. Rookie mistake. Okay, next stop. Back to the ballroom. I like to see how things are run there. So I'm scoping out, okay, where's the on-deck area? Meaning, where do the couples enter the floor when it's their heat? Is there an exit strategy? Often they will tell the competitors to exit from a certain corner. If they don't, maybe it's just a free-for-all and everyone leaves. But I want to find out in advance just so I'm following the etiquette of that competition when my heat comes around, okay? Next up, I test drive the floor. Usually they'll have a couple social dances in there. Do not bother dancing your routines. All I am doing is just having a feel for the floor. Is it sticky? Is it extra slick? Are there seams? These comps tend to rent a floor, often from a hotel, so it's very unpredictable. Now, each comp tends to use the same floor year to year, so it's likely if last year's floor was extremely slick, which I found down at USDSC, it's probably going to be slick again. If it's extremely sticky, probably going to be sticky again this year, but test drive it just to make sure. If there are no social dances, heck, just, go next to the floor and put your little footy on it with your dance shoes. See what happens. This is very helpful info to know. I like to watch a couple heats too, because even if I'm not impressed with the dancing and I'm not learning much, I am seeing if there's any boards that I might slide on, because if there's cracks in those boards, other people's shoes are going to catch them. And I just want to know kind of what areas of the floor I might need to be a little more careful. Okay. The night before I compete, I take advantage of that practice floor. It's probably going to be upstairs. It's definitely smaller. In all honesty, that is not going to be a productive practice in terms of changing your dancing at that comp. Last minute fixes require short-term memory. Comp round is over 10 minutes long. You're not a computer. There's no way you're going to retain all those new concepts in that actual comp that day. As a matter of fact, you will dance at the comp like you did several months ago. You're not going to really realistically execute things that you've mastered recently. And that's okay. It's the same for everyone else. Okay. It's a long-term game. But being on that warm-up floor together will help calm your nerves. Okay. And there's something big to be said for that in terms of how you will dance. It's also your opportunity to remind your partner what they should be focusing on. Because often we are hypercritical of our partner, and you're going to remember a heck of a lot more about what the coach told them to do than what the coach told you to do, and vice versa. So that's very helpful to have communication time. Okay. When you're on that comp floor that day, honestly, at max, you're going to be able to focus at 3 things, maybe the 2 things, maybe just 1 thing. If it's a nightmare out there in terms of floor craft, it might just be all muscle memory, but don't expect to master all new concepts out there. And that's okay. On the day of the comp, I get up extremely early. Ladies, our hair can be a dumpster fire. So unfortunately for you, we've got to get up a lot earlier. And depending on if I've made an appointment for my hair at the comp, maybe I have, maybe I haven't, it could take me up to 4 hours to do my hair if I'm having a bad hair day. And I am very, very tightly wound about how I look. So sometimes that happens. Ladies, if you have a friend at the competition who is a very experienced competitor, it can relieve a lot of stress to have them do your hair or trade doing each other's hair. Okay, that experience comes with time. Do not have someone who's been competing just a couple years do your hair. Bad idea. But that can be less stressful for you. Honestly, for me, I am going for a very specific look for each competition. So I took until the very last minute to get ready, regardless of how early I got up. But every couple is different, okay? For me, practicing on the day of the comp was quite fruitless. As a matter of fact, you both go in very stressed out. You're dancing much stiffer than you usually would. You're dancing stiffer in that warm-up than you will in the actual comp. The hormones are rushing in your body, that adrenaline, so you're going to be really amped up emotionally and be more triggered faster to feel anger or being upset not worth it. You do not want to go into that comp emotionally charged. So to stay as calm as possible, I don't recommend doing your full routines or even attempting to. However, I do highly recommend stretching. Now, I'm extremely flexible. That was never an issue for me, but unless you're built like Gumby naturally, definitely stretch. You will dance better, especially in that first round where you're literally cold. It's very doubtful they'll have enough social dancing for you to effectively warm up before your heats, okay? Nor do you want to sucker yourself out. Stretching won't tire you out. For me, I try to arrive a good half hour early. Honestly, usually I'm running late. I don't recommend it. I'm just being honest about what my experience was as an amateur. But I do like to be a half an hour early. Also, due to the nerves, due to the athletic exertion, as I mentioned yesterday, you will lose up to 2 hours of sweat every hour that you compete. So you want to go onto that floor well hydrated. You do not want to wait after 2 rounds and then start drinking. Your body cannot absorb that liquid fast enough, and your athletic abilities will greatly suffer, okay? Your dancing will suffer. Related to dehydration, like 20 minutes before you go out on that dance floor, guys, put Vaseline on your lips. They will dry out, not just due to the stress and nerves, but because of the dehydration. The last thing you want to do in the comp floor is dance around like this with your smile stuck to your face, okay? And that happened to me my first couple comps I went to, until a much more experienced dancer was like, hey, put Vaseline on your lips. We all do. Didn't know that. Okay, finally, our outfits can be a bit like escaping from a Harry Houdini setup. So I strongly recommend 20 minutes before your heat starts, go to the bathroom. Pee, even if you don't think you have to. The last thing you want, because nerves are going to kick in, which means you're going to want to go to the bathroom more than you actually even should, is to be holding that back while you're out there trying to dance your best, okay? So worth the time investment. Take a little potty break before that heat starts. And then I go back in and it's game time. I'm ready to roll. So I hope that's been helpful, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for your question, Camille. If you have more questions, please comment below. I love all the ideas you guys share about what content you would like to hear about the ballroom dance world. So thanks for joining me. Have a great day. Bye, guys.